Today we are facing some of the greatest challenges of our lives, from our health to political unrest, the environment, financial uncertainty, and the nation's racial divide. Welcome to Bill Myers Inspires. My idea for this show was to invite guests and get the conversation started, to take a deep dive into the issues that impact our world with an eye to exploring solutions. And we encourage our listeners to look within themselves to take decisive action to make a positive difference. Welcome to Bill Myers Inspires. I'm your host, Bill Myers, and I'm excited today to have with me a guest that is somebody I have admired for many years, a musical hero. I mean, and there he is right there, James Bradley, folks. James Bradley Jr.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah,
can you hear me? All right, I see you. Yeah. Brother Bill, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
All right, brother.
So we're going to try to get your audio together. It's a little hot right now. It's a little loud.
Maybe I should turn. Yeah, I'll do something on this end to help.
That might help a little bit.
Yeah, let me see. Damn, I had it turned all the way up here.
Okay, that sounds a lot better, I think.
Can you hear me now? Is it fine? Is it good now?
Yeah, that's better. Much better.
All right, cool.
Okay, so folks, I am excited. You see this man, James Bradley Jr., and I just want to talk about today's topic. First of all, James is a musical hero of mine. He was the drummer, the underage drummer. He was a young tyke playing with the Chuck Mangione Quartet, and man, I played his music, Chuck Mangione, and the bass player, James Bradley Jr. on the drums, Charles Meeks on the bass, Chris Vidala on everything, as Chuck
said.
That was one of my favorites, and I began as a trumpet player. So my love for these guys is amazing. But today, I have invited James to join me in a conversation on the topic of a Black American living abroad.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very important, given the circumstances in America and the racial divide and the unrest. I thought it would be nice to get a perspective from someone who is living elsewhere, so that we could possibly get a perspective on what are they seeing and what is their understanding from abroad as they look at the chaos in America. And I just thought that it would be very important to get a perspective on that. And there are some other really interesting nuances that we'll dive into in this conversation with James. But first, let me take a moment and see if I can visit your bio here.
Okay.
But I have kind of outlined it. I mean, you've been a professional musician all your life. I mean, there are pictures of you and a young actor also. A lot of parallels between you and the young Billy Preston, as far as being young child actors who were also musicians who went on to do amazing and great things. And so I would just like to start, because anybody who does not know about James Bradley Jr. can go online and check out type in James Bradley Jr. and you will find a plethora, particularly on YouTube. He's wearing it out. He's a monster drummer, and he's on my bucket list to share the stage with. So that's going to happen sometime. But initially, I want to get into a couple of topics here. We're talking about a Black American living abroad and trying to gain a sense of perspective that we can share with our listeners today, because I have certainly traveled and toured around, so I'm in the category of nice place to visit, but I can't say that I've lived anywhere. I mean, I've parked internationally for, months, but I've never lived there. I always had a passport and knew what my address was back home in New York at the time. And so I want to start off, since we are in this phase of an election that occurred this last Tuesday for President of the United States, and a very important election. Many people, historical folks, have said there's not been a racial divide in this nation of this magnitude
Right.
for 160 years. And they date that all
Yeah.
the way back to 1860 when
That's crazy.
Abraham Lincoln, became
Yeah.
president.
Oof.
And we then entered into the Civil War on the basis of, again, slavery.
Mm-hmm.
So we are still counting votes. And we are still playing politics. I mean, the
Right.
election's over, and these people are counting an
Right.
amazing number of votes. In fact, there was a historic turnout, the largest number of votes in a presidential election in
In
history.
history. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that in and of itself
Wow.
is a pretty incredible scenario. But it takes a while to count that stuff, particularly also when we have the pandemic that is facing
Yeah.
the entire world. So people are trying to
Yeah.
social distance and trying to do the best they can to get these votes counted. It
Right.
obviously limits the number of bodies and hands that can touch these things under normal circumstances, but these are not normal circumstances and very trying times that we are in
Right.
at this point. So James, I would like to start off with sort of getting your perspective, your thoughts on what is happening in America politically and socially and racially. How do you see that from living in Stockholm, Sweden for over
Oh, yeah.
years?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been back home. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and born and raised in Los Angeles, and later on in my middle 20s, I lived in the Hollywood Hills, and I lived all over, uh, Los Angeles. I mean, from here, I mean, I haven't been back in over 10 years to America, period. I had some complications with my passport, but I mean, it seems in the last 10 years like it's gotten worse. I've kept contact with literally religiously for the last. I mean, I'm almost living here in Sweden for almost 20 years, because
Mm-hmm.
I came here in May of 2002 and married my wife that I met the year before while I was on tour with the group Crazy Town, a young rap rock band from LA, and we were signed to Sony Music. We had a #1 hit, worldwide hit, #1 hit, called Butterfly. But yeah, it's I mean, just everybody over here is monitoring. I mean, what's going on in America, because they kind of look up to us, but then they look at it. They understand. I mean, they don't understand. The really understand the divide. They don't really understand. I mean, they're aware of it, but they don't understand what it's like going through that. Like to be a black man or woman, to
Right.
go with that. So yeah, that's it's quite tough, to describe.
So
So they kind of follow after us, but
So I'm
there's
curious. I'm curious,
yeah.
James. So what are the people? What are the people in Sweden? What do they say about what's happening? Even though they don't know, what are they saying? What types of
Well, I can tell you basically, I mean, I can tell you all of Europe. Uh, Most people that I talk to, and I meet a lot of people from other countries that come into town, and they see me play. They may come in to this one particular club where I perform, and I talk to them. I mean, I welcome them and talk to them all the time, and everybody that I talk to is like they can't stand the Trump at all. I mean, they don't. I haven't met anybody over here from anywhere in Europe that likes that man. You know, so that's one thing.
Right,
and
right.
and they want and they want relations to be more civil and warming.
Yeah,
In connection to America, that's what they all want. Because here in Sweden, there's a generation of Swedes in America. That
right,
came from here, that they're there now, and their children are there. And there's a lot of people here that have cousins and
right,
relatives there.
Right.
mostly white, and I mean, we have a pretty high population of Africans and Middle Eastern people here that have cousins in America right now. You know,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
they all want the same. They all want the same thing. You know,
Right. Right.
I mean,
That's it.
Obama was very well liked. He came here,
Uh,
and they welcomed him with open arms. I mean, he was a class man, class president. So I mean, so they loved him, But it's
right.
been since number 40, was it 42, 45? Since he got there, it's been not so fun.
Right. Right. So now that so you have been. So we're talking about the observations from abroad, from the Swedes, and what you've observed about America. But now I want to ask about your experience living in Sweden itself.
Hmm.
I think it should be known that your wife
Hmm.
is Caucasian, is a Swede, is
Hmm.
a native Swede, and
Yeah.
um, and so we talked about this briefly, and I would like to get your observations on interracial marriage, interracial
Hmm.
couple,
Yeah.
and what sort of things regarding racism that you may have experienced actually in Sweden regarding that. So could you share some?
Yeah, I can get a few things. And when I first I met her in 2001, March of 2001. I was only here for 2 days. The
Uh,
first time I'd ever been in Sweden, because prior the first time I toured in Europe was in 1979 with Chuck Mangione.
okay.
But we went all over Europe, but we didn't come to the northern Europe, which Scandinavia. We didn't come here at all. Second time I toured Europe was in 1992. It was in the summer with the Beastie Boys, and we same thing. We toured all over Europe. Didn't come to the northern part of Europe.
Right.
Third time was with the group Crazy Sound, and we just played a show in Milan, Italy for MTV, and then we came in. We flew here the next day, and we were here for 2 days. And I met her. I met her the first day. First day I was here, actually, and
Uh-huh.
it was instant, like love at sight type thing. But then I came back the next year in May of 2002 and married her at the end of that month. But the first weekend, no, I don't. I can't recall if it was when I had visited for 10 days, but I was going to the tube here, um, and there was an old Swedish man, and he was like curse. I mean, I didn't know Swedish at the time. Swedish is my second language now, but I didn't know what he was saying. But I could hear some words. But I could tell it wasn't nice.
Right.
And she told me later, because I just went out. I just said, "Yo," I kind of ran, not aggressively toward him, but I kind of trotted toward him, and she just
Right.
said, "No, just leave him alone. He's drunk. He's talking,
Right.
smack, and And so I found out that he was saying some crazy stuff, she's a whore and I'm her pimp, basically in Swedish. He was saying
Wow.
that.
Wow.
Yeah, but I didn't know at the time, but I knew it wasn't right. I could feel the vibe, that it wasn't cool at all.
Right.
And
Right.
then another thing that struck me, happened one time was I went to Finland, and I was playing with this band, this legendary Swedish blues rock band
Mm,
called Sky High, with Klaus Ingstrom, who he's a Jimi Hendrix historian, in fact, actually.
right.
And we pulled up into this. We were playing a blues festival. We pulled up, and first thing I noticed was the Dixie flag, and
Wow.
that shocked me. I said, I call him Big Brother of Balls. I said, Balls Hall, check this out, man. I said that to him because you
Right.
know, and he looked. He saw the flag, and he said, "No." I said, "Yeah." I told him. I said, "Talk to these people."
Right.
So
Right.
there's still a little bit of ignorance to this too.
Sure.
They didn't. I mean, they thought it was kind of cool, a cool thing to do.
Right.
No, they don't know the history behind it, and how it affects an American, especially an American black man. They had no idea. They had no clue. They had no idea. 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 No, they don't have no idea of that. So
Right.
he set them straight. He knew. My brother, my brother knew. I mean,
Right.
Klaus knew. So he told them. He didn't yell and scream at him. He just, hey, no. He said, y'all got to take.
Take
You
that
got to
down.
take it down.
Right.
And they
Right.
did. They took it down. There was no nothing. They said they apologized for that to me.
Right. Right. Well,
So it was really, yeah,
well, that's amazing that there was a
yeah,
resolve, that was
yes, but
pleasant, and we were able to couch that. So
yeah,
James Bradley Jr., we're about to take a break, so we're going
okay.
to come back in just a few moments. You are listening to Bill Myers Inspires right here on the Inspired Choices Network, and I'm here with my guest, James Bradley Jr. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Today, we are facing some of the greatest challenges of our lives, from our health to political unrest, the environment, financial uncertainty, and the nation's racial divide. Tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Bill Myers Inspires, as he and his guests take a deep dive into the issues that impact our world with an eye to exploring solutions. Emmy Award-winning actor Bill Myers is an accomplished actor, jazz musician, filmmaker, writer, educator, and speaker. As a biracial man who's both black and white, Bill leverages his background, talents, and voice through creativity, compassion, and connection as activism for social justice to focus on uniting the divide and compelling change. Bill Myers Inspires encourages listeners to look within themselves and take decisive action to make a positive difference. For more information, visit his website, BillMyersInspires.com, and sign in for the latest news and updates.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires here on the Inspired Choices Network. We're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. And now, let's get back to the conversation. We're back. You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires, and today I am my guest is James Bradley Jr., and we're talking about a Black American living abroad is the topic as we continue our deep dive into racism and attempt to bring in different sort of perspectives and different views on this topic. And again, it is an honor to have him. He is, again, one of my musical heroes for sure.
Oh.
Yeah, I wish I had you playing drums on those tracks I was just listening to. But
that was nice, though. That was nice. I already wrote my part already in 5 seconds. I knew.
I love it. I love it. So I wanted to ask about you are married and
Yes.
You have children, and
Yes.
these children would be biracial children.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious. Again, I believe that the younger generations have their own different perspective of racism, and as these generations sort of and these biracial kids sort of continue to through interracial relationships continue, so you've got this entire sort of thing of mixed,
right,
you know what I mean, and all kind of various combinations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that they have a different perspective. I think they are born innately with a different perspective, a different worldview. I know that as a biracial person myself, that my worldview was deeply affected by
Mhm.
the fact that, I have, a white mother, a white uncles, white cousins, white
Right.
parents. I've got black
Yeah.
father, black cousins,
Right.
black
Right.
uncles,
Right.
aunts.
Yeah.
And so, and I know for a fact that obviously, as human beings, these things can get along and work together because I am a product of some sort of getting together that happened. And
Yeah.
so,
Exactly.
so I know that works, but I am
Yeah.
curious what your children, I don't know their ages, but if you would share with us their
Yeah.
names and their
Yeah.
ages, good start.
Yeah. My firstborn child is a boy. His name is
Mhm.
Jordan Larson Bradley, and he was born in L.A.
Okay.
He's 24 years old now. That's my oldest
Okay.
from a previous relationship. That was my first child. And
Okay.
but when I met my wife here, we have two children born here.
Okay.
They were born and raised here. James Bradley the third,
Okay.
and he just turned 17 last month.
All right.
And Lena Dean Elizabeth Bradley, she's 12 years old.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. So I'm just curious about uh, what they have encountered. You know what I mean? What have they encountered regarding the race issue? Because again, I know as being a biracial person, boy, it can be dicey. I mean, because people
Yeah,
are so quick to want to put you in a box, and you don't really
right,
fit in any of these boxes. You sort of
right.
transcend the box,
Yeah,
and but they're determined to try to shove you in a box. And
right.
I believe the youth of today are even more determined not to step into a box. And so,
Right, right. No, it's a whole different thing now, and it's beautiful to see actually.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
I mean, like my oldest son, here they had the Black Lives Matters march here the same day when it went, around the world.
Okay.
He went in and marched with them. He was here in Stockholm, and my youngest one, he was 16 at the time. James the third. He was there also. So
Hmm.
it's a beautiful thing. They're aware. They're learning about Black American history through me, and they're researching, the history.
Hmm. Sure.
Overall, I mean, in Sweden, I mean, the Swedes always thought that Martin Luther King is like the greatest, and there's so much respect for Malcolm X too, but because I believe King came to Norway. I think when he got the
No,
Pulitzer, yeah,
Nobel Peace Prize.
Nobel, yeah, it's in Oslo,
Yeah.
Norway. So
Right.
came there, and then he actually met the. He's not. We don't have really like a president because there's a king and the queen, but then they call him the city's city mayor.
Okay.
Um, he met him, which he was later actually assassinated. Olaf Palme. He was actually murdered here, but King came here and met him too.
Wow.
So there's they have a respect for that. I mean, but I think over here it's totally different because uh, as far as the racism thing, it's kind of hidden.
Uh
It's
huh.
kind of hidden. So you have to be, yeah, it's yet aware of it. And then what I've learned, and well, most Americans, whether they're white, black, because they look at us as being, oh, we're really loud and aggressive. I mean, mostly, especially the blacks, the black Americans. But then, I mean, over in Europe, though. But see, the thing I want to say this, and that all the Americans, all my American brothers and sisters, black and white, know this. I'll tell you this: as far as the divide in America, when you come out of America and live over in most parts of Europe, okay, we seem to come together more. You know, than we do back home. There's none of that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, it's out the window because we're all in the same place. You know, we're away from home. So all we really have is each other to rely on.
Wow.
And we do that all the time. I mean, I have white brothers and sisters here from America that like some younger people that I've like adopted myself because I've been here longer than them. And
Right.
I can show them the ropes how it goes here.
Right.
You know, how we get down here, how the natives work and how everything goes. And
Right.
they ask me, they come to me, and ask me things. Yeah, I tell them. And that's what happened to me. When I came here, I met some American brothers, African American brothers here.
Mhm.
And for a few of them, they knew who I was. They knew who James Bradley Jr. was from my time as a child star growing up in America and playing with Chuck Mangione.
Right. Right.
So that instantly made me feel at home here. It made the transition so much easier. So it's like, yeah, we family. I mean, I got family here.
Right. Right.
And a couple of the musicians we met. One guy in particular I met. I met him in New York like over 30 years ago, and he was playing with Roy Ayers.
Okay. Okay.
A guitarist by the name of Chuck Anthony.
Okay.
And when they they took me to a jam, and I played for 2 nights, and they wanted to introduce me to the local musicians, here,
Right.
Swedes, Swedish, and whoever was here, Africans, and when I took 2 looks at him, and I said, man, I know this man, and we started talking. He said, James, I met you, 30 years ago in New York. I was, oh my God, So it was like kind of a meant to be thing, but it made it so much better, and it made me feel like, oh yeah, this is the place I'm supposed to be here,
Right.
It made the transition so much easier,
Wow. That's nice, man. That's nice that there's that kind of, bonding and camaraderie and everybody looking out for one another. I mean, that's community. That's community.
Yeah.
And something that we sometimes take for granted in America, and we're not very good at it. I want to share one little story, and then we're going to take another break. But my experience in I was doing a jazz concert. Well, in Barbados, because I called you for the second.
Yeah, right. You can, yeah.
And that, by the way, that's still on my bucket list, bro. So pencil me in. But
all right,
when I got there, it was the first time I was there, and I was going with my handler to, I think it was like a grocery store or something, and we walked by 3 gentlemen that were sitting on the street, on the curb with the brown bag.
Okay.
Laughing and cutting up and having a great time. And so we just, walked right by them, and we got about 20 feet past them and heard, hey. I turned around, man, this guy, one of them had stood up, and man, he started in for like 10 minutes, and his whole theme was, how dare you, how rude you are that you walk by another human being without acknowledging them and greeting them.
Right.
It was about a 10-minute tongue lashing. And I thought about that, and I thought, how much in America we make it a point of how not to look at somebody, how to look away, but there it's a part of their culture, and it is something that they actually cherish, is human connection.
Yeah, you can. You know what? I have something to tell. Yeah, and that's another thing too, because the Swedes can be really cold. I mean, when you come here to visit, they're very hospitable, but after you're here, like the first little while, they can be cold sometimes. They can be cold sometimes too.
Right.
But one of the things that I always do, like you were talking about, acknowledging. Hey, I met. This is where I met a lot of my African brothers from all over Africa that are here, living here, that were here before me too. Any black man, we all, every time we see each other, we acknowledge each other.
Right.
You know.
Right.
we acknowledge each other. It's just crazy. And
it's just so important. It's so important for us to uh, uh, make it a goal to connect with. And because it doesn't cost you anything. And,
right.
And a smile's a bonus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
That's even more better. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So we're gonna take a break at this time, James, and just hold that thought, because I know we were getting ready to skip to the next chapter. You're listening.
All right.
You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires right here on the Inspired Choices Network, and we are with my special guest, James Bradley Jr., discussing a Black man living abroad. We'll be back in just a moment.
Today, we are facing some of the greatest challenges of our lives, from our health to political unrest, the environment, financial uncertainty, and the nation's racial divide. Tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Bill Myers Inspires, as he and his guests take a deep dive into the issues that impact our world with an eye to exploring solutions. Emmy Award-winning actor Bill Myers is an accomplished actor, jazz musician, filmmaker, writer, educator, and speaker. As a biracial man who's both Black and white, Bill leverages his background, talents, and voice through creativity, compassion, and connection as activism for social justice to focus on uniting the divide and compelling change. Bill Myers Inspires encourages listeners to look within themselves and take decisive action to make a positive difference. For more information, visit his website, BillMyersInspires.com, and sign in for the latest news and updates.
You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires here on the Inspired Choices Network. We're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. And now, let's get back to the conversation. We're back, and you're listening to Bill Myers Inspires with my guest, James Bradley Jr. Man, I'm thrilled. Let me just take a moment just to go woo, and just have my moment.
Yeah, woo. Man, I know, man. It's amazing.
Thank God for Facebook, because we connected.
Yeah, well, the internet, period.
And I told you I had also connected with Grant Geisman, and communicated with him. And again, James Bradley Jr., the bass man. There's so frequently I find myself playing a solo or playing a lick, and it just it just hits me, and I'm going, man, that was James Brad. It's so influenced by playing, every lick, man. So anyway, we're back to talking about a Black man living abroad, and you just shared some perspective that was very interesting in the camaraderie that exists between Black Americans that live abroad, and how they support one another and have a real sense of community and mentor and nurture one another, which I think is uncanny and awesome, because it harkens back to many years ago, maybe 40s, 50s, when so many African-American jazz players went to Paris, and they just threw their hands up here and said, look, I'm out of here, and lived over there. And then I told you another story about one of Count Basie. It was actually Freddie Green's replacement when Freddie Green died with the Count Basie Orchestra, the guitar player.
Right.
And he is from Indianapolis, Paul Whedon. And
you told me about him.
Yeah, he was one of those that skedaddled out of the States and lived in Oslo.
Yes.
I thought it was Sweden, and we had talked about that. But
right.
But again,
that's the oil country of the Nordic region. In fact, actually, it's the oil. That's where there's oil there.
Okay,
so that's like the Houston of like America. Yeah, seriously. So it's some money there.
Wow. Yeah. Well, does Jed Clampett live there?
No. No, but you know what? You know everything is the cost of living is higher, but your pay is higher, you know, is more. You know, they pay
Right.
is yeah. So yeah.
Well, that's great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So we talked about. So now I want to turn my attention to um, sort of the business part of this. How many are there as far as business opportunities or business ownership type opportunities for blacks and that are there?
Yeah, I mean,
Is there a lot?
well, yeah. There is. They actually encourage you to that you can have your own. It's really easy to have your own company. But one thing, the taxes. I'm from California. I mean, if I were to move back to the States, I would definitely move to a state with no taxes. After here, they take half of what you make. You know,
Wow.
so
Okay.
it's a little like it's a little there. It's kind of
Hmm.
But yeah, you can if you have an idea, a very prosperous idea, and you can put it put it together.
Right.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
So,
You can, they encourage you to do that. I
so
mean, it's
that's
it's a
wonderful.
little hard. Yeah, it's a little hard to keep it going depending on what it is. I mean, I heard about this one brother that was from Oakland, and his mother actually came here. This was before I came. That they had a soul food restaurant here.
Okay.
And it was up for a while, but I don't know how long it lasted, maybe a few years, but you know, it's gone now. So yeah,
Wow.
you can, but at least you have the opportunity to do that.
Well, certainly, if you're going to start a business, the one observation that I've made, even about American, um, blacks in America, I mean, having businesses is when you create businesses for the specific, meaning I'm opening up a soul food restaurant for my people.
Right, right,
That can be I'm opening up a bookstore for my people. Uh,
right,
there's somewhat of a problem in that. First of all, the color shouldn't be black or white; it should be green, and
right.
you have to have an audience. And when your base is as small as it is, it's only 10% of the population, and because you are doing less quantity,
Uh,
the costs of your tennis shoes in your little corner store are
hmm
not going to be able to compete with what's going on down
Yeah,
at Walmart. So,
right. The big boys.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and certainly black folks are going to be looking for the deal too. So they're going to take
Right, right.
down to Walmart. And unfortunately, your nice idea for business, and this is a fundamental problem in the whole um, fabric of America. And it's sort of
Yeah.
by design when you really get to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think. I mean, yeah, definitely. I think it's somewhat maybe in other parts of the world too, but yeah, most definitely America. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
you always seem to be up against. We seem to be up against that.
right.
The big hand comes in and swoops us up and
Yeah.
takes away
All
more opportunity.
sort of stores. I mean, whether it's black or white. Let me just
Right,
now
right,
across that all the way across the board, where even white, single store owners or shop owners are challenged because they too are in
hmm
competition with the big monopolies, the big, huge, giant corporations who can
right,
buy the product for pennies on the dollar, and it costs you
right.
$10, and somebody's asking why your price is so high. It's like, well, because you can't get the quantity. You know
hmm
what I mean? The quantity buy, and
hmm
so they're tremendous challenges, but all of these things are hurdles that keep us away from
Yeah,
being able to acquire wealth and that kind of
right,
stability,
right.
the kind of
It's
thing.
totally systematic. I mean,
Absolutely. And it affects the ability, because every parent, no matter what color or what have you, it is everyone's desire who has kids to provide and leave something behind for future generations,
right. The generations. Yeah,
set
yeah.
them up better in a better situation than you came in with and all that. And that's really an uphill battle. And I wanted to share one little factoid, and then I'll sort of get off of that, which was I recently came across an article, and I may have mentioned it even last week in my podcast, but I don't really care because, quite frankly, I couldn't mention this enough. If I had to say it every day, I think it's important to hear it. And that was, at the current rate that America is in as far as growth and whatnot, it would take a Black American 228 years at the rate we're going to create a wealth base that's equivalent to a white person in America. 228 years. Yeah, it kind of makes you know, pretty sick, but it helps underscore the intensity that of the injustice and the inequality and all that. And but so now I want to talk about the election and some of the key observations that I came up with, and I'm just curious what your perspective is. And that is, people thought for sure, many people thought that there was no way that this was necessarily going to be close, the election.
Right.
It was going to be, you know, a rejection of Donald Trump. The Republican Party has shrunk. It's considerably smaller, so that his base is actually a fragment, you know, a shadow of what the Republican Party really is. But they are small but mighty, meaning they're vocal and they take his orders and corruption and all that sort of stuff. And so, you know, you look at that and you see this massive turnout in the midst of a pandemic for people to vote. And for weeks, people were voting and on lines that were 3, 4.
Yeah, you know, they show that over here on the news. So we saw that, you know.
Yeah,
I saw that, you know. Yeah, definitely.
Incredible lines and showing. But at the end of the day, that gap, that overwhelming show of support, which you would think would be, I want him out of here now. So the first day of early voting, I am going in and cast my stuff because I like him out there tomorrow, you know.
Right.
So that kind of thing. But the truth here was that it wasn't and still isn't that broad of a spread. In fact, it is real close, which means a lot of people that have presented during the daylight and may have even been marching along with Black Lives Matter, you know, serving their conscience in that way, clearly turned around and when they were in the privacy of a booth, voted for this man. And that to me is alarming that there's that much. And we're talking about 50-50 split. We are splitting.
Yeah.
We're like, so the divide is equal. So boy, this is like Ali Joe Frazier stuff.
Yeah.
It is matched. And I guess the disappointing thing would be for one who would think that some of that we went through in the past, maybe we left some of it behind. And when you look at results like that, I cannot help but face the reality, which is it's bigger and broader. And what you said was, even in Europe, your experience is a lot of that is quiet. In other words, it's sort of closeted race. It's not overt. Well, we got a whole lot of closeted racists going on in America, and a lot more than I thought. And I think that opener here.
Yeah.
You know? So, any thoughts about that, man? Because it's incredible. Because it's very close. They're.
Yeah, I know. It's you know, like you said, opening up when we start talking, when you said the biggest voter turnout in American history.
Yeah.
That there is just you know.
Yeah.
Bigger, like bigger than all of us. So that's really a serious thing. Well, you just have to, you know, pray and hope for the best. Because there's a lot of like crazy things going on, and with that, I mean, like who, you start thinking in your mind, who can you trust?
Ah,
The system has a way of, it's really more with the internet. I mean, back in the day, they had the newspapers. They put out this. They
right,
call it fake news or whatever. They put out this information, and
right,
so it's really hard now. For all of us to come together and focus on task and I mean, which they seem to have done this now.
right,
There
right,
is a divide. There's a divide, but there is a bit of coming together too.
right. Yeah,
So we have that. So
yeah,
to happening. So I mean, I think we're at this point now in the world, with the situation, in these times.
yeah, absolutely.
I just, so
Yeah, it's something. So we're going to take our last break here, and then we'll come back for a shorty, and we'll wrap this up. You are listening to Bill Myers Inspires on the Inspired Choices Network, and I'm here with my guest today, James Bradley Jr., and we are talking about Black man living abroad. And so we will be back in just one moment. Hang in there.
Today, we are facing some of the greatest challenges of our lives, from our health to political unrest, the environment, financial uncertainty, and the nation's racial divide. Tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Bill Myers Inspires, as he and his guests take a deep dive into the issues that impact our world with an eye to exploring solutions. Emmy Award-winning actor Bill Myers is an accomplished actor, jazz musician, filmmaker, writer, educator, and speaker. As a biracial man who's both Black and white, Bill leverages his background, talents, and voice through creativity, compassion, and connection as activism for social justice to focus on uniting the divide and compelling change. Bill Myers Inspires encourages listeners to look within themselves and take decisive action to make a positive difference. For more information, visit his website, BillMyersInspires.com, and sign in for the latest news and updates.
You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires here on the Inspired Choices Network. We're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. And now, let's get back to the conversation.
Ooh, 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 ooh. I was singing the melody.
Yes, James Bradley Jr. live in concert, folks, right here. So
Yeah.
man, it really is a pleasure and an honor to have you here in conversation. And I think that, again, the observations that you shared regarding the race issue and all that, but I want to now invest a little bit of energy in the wonderful thing that we share mutually, and that is music, and
Yes.
how music lifts the spirits and can transport us to a place
Yes.
that transcends all sort of races and colors and
Yeah,
cultural.
everything. Right.
When you
Right.
look out there and see everybody in the house head bobbing, and you see every foot in the place doing that, something's happening magically that can connect us all in a second.
Yeah. Yeah. Music is the healing force of the universe.
The healing force.
Force of the universe. And wow, I mean, that's so true. One of the things I can share with you about actually the Swedes, because there's a big blues. I didn't know that before myself.
Mm-hmm.
There's a heavy blues. They love like blues, hardcore blues, down home blues here.
Mm-hmm.
And that when I discovered that here, because I started playing in the clubs, which was a different thing for me, and playing a lot of the blues, like down home blues, Muddy Waters and all that type of, down home blues.
Right.
So it reconnected me with roots that I really didn't, it was in my soul, but I never really played any blues gigs. I did support some blues artists. I mean, I spent some time with Muddy Waters. Actually, when I was with Chuck Mangione in 1977, we played over in Honolulu, Hawaii, at the old, remember the old Cool Jazz Festival series?
Oh, yeah.
I got a chance to hang out with Muddy for a whole week.
Wow.
We stayed in the same hotel. We were on the same show, and he was like, it was amazing because he was like a grandfather to me. We didn't even talk about music. He just wanted me to hang out with him, just be with him, and I was like, now that I restudied a lot of the blues history because of how it is here with the Swedes. So that opened up a whole, part of my roots that I didn't even, I had rediscovered those roots, even though I was a jazz baby, literally,
Right.
So that was a cool thing. And, I mean, what can you say about it? I mean, it's just so true. And I could say capital THEY, they know this.
Right.
They know this,
Right.
So, but it doesn't matter. I mean, they can't stop that. I mean, the only way they can try to stop it is by what's happening now.
Right.
But we're doing pretty well here. I mean, it is like different in the aspect of it's not so easy really, even though I mean I'm established here now, but then it's just like there's still a bit of it, like I mean there's like some under the rug type racism that I have to deal with too. I mean, a group of us here,
right,
they have a different kind of concept here. Like you can be too good for the job, type thing.
Wow.
It's kind of excuse my expression, ass backwards kind of thinking, kind of like sometimes the logic here in this particular part of the world isn't, so logical, So we have to for real, we have to deal with that.
Right.
And then in some ways, one of my Swedish uncles, said to me when I first came in, who was a jazz musician, and he lived in LA for a while. And my second drumming teacher played with him.
Right.
And I forgot the man was Swedish until I moved here. And he told me, he said, James, sometimes you have to show these people,
Right. And I'm sure
in a nice way. And
I'm sure you set them straight when you said
yeah. I mean, but I've learned how to do it their way too. I mean, it's all about like one thing you said too. What I've learned is being able to converse.
Right.
That's the thing that these people hear. They know how we are, but it's like sit down at the table and talk about it. And you don't have to scream and yell and act crazy. And I mean, and that's one of the things I've learned. So
that's really awesome. Well, James, I'm gonna have to grab this conversation now because we are coming to the end of our time together. But
yes,
but brother, we will definitely have an entire session where we talk about
the
Hollywood Bowl live recording. But we're gonna have to get right past that right now. And
all right,
and it has been a pleasure and an honor to have you with me on the show.
Thank you.
I so appreciate it, and you are an amazing musician and talent. And man, just keep doing what you're doing because I'm right behind you.
Well, you too, you too, brother. I want to say from Sweden that African American brother, it doesn't matter black and white. I love all of you, and I miss you. Okay, and stick together, and pray together, and just stick together. Come together and stick together, and don't stop. Don't stop.
You heard it
keep
here.
Marching.
Keep marching.
Yeah.
Tune in next week. We have enjoyed ourselves, and thank you so much. You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires. See you. Thank you for spending your afternoon right here with us at Bill Myers Inspires. Remember, we're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Inspired Choices Network. remember to take time this week to take a breath and look within yourself and figure out how you can make a positive difference in this world. Spread the word, and we'll see you here next Friday. Have a wonderful week.